Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and the year is 2021. And there's not a lot happening so far, but there's a lot of stuff that's being celebrated around stuff that has already happened. Yes, this is the year of the anniversaries, and to discuss how many anniversaries have been anniversed, I'm joined by Mr. John and Mr. Zedon. Please say hello.
There are so many anniversaries.
This is the 29th anniversary of my birth this year. Every year's an anniversary.
That's a milestone.
Yeah, so when we say anniversary, we are, in this instance, we're generally referring to an anniversary that ends with a 5 or a 10, a significant one. You know, when was the last time Mario was celebrating his 33rd anniversary? It's just not a big deal, is it? But we did some digging because we realized that there were quite a lot of anniversaries this year, and the more we dug... the more we found, and we're going to stick to specifically Nintendo properties. So, you know, I think, John, you found out that, what was it, Castlevania has its something anniversary this year?
Yeah, both Castlevania and I believe Dragon Quest as well are celebrating their 35th, maybe 40th, actually. So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff from that golden era that's also aging with things like we're about to list, which I'm sure you have prepared, Alex.
Well, I have. I need to load it up, of course. So I'm going to do a little bit of rambling and stalling and ask Xeon what his favourite waterfowl is.
Water fountains. Yeah, I guess I don't really have a particular favorite one.
Waterfowl.
Xeon, would you consider drinking fountains?
Xeon!
Would drinking fountains?
So the biggest one that most people are talking about is Zelda. We've discussed it ourselves. Yes, it is the, what is it? Is it the 35th? I lose track. I'm pretty sure it's the 35th.
I believe so.
Yeah, the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. And when we go by anniversaries, we're going from the original Japanese release, or at least the earliest release, which I'm pretty certain in all these instances is the Japanese release. But, you know, we're going with the very earliest release, and we're going by franchise.
And we have a lot of franchises on this list too, right?
We do. Well, I don't want to give away quite how many we have, but
ooh, sure.
It's a fair few. So I don't want to hang around too much on the Zelda one because we've discussed it all before. And yeah, you know, Zelda's been around for 35 years. That's great in anyone's book. But yeah, it's obvious it's been done to death. What's slightly less obvious, although still relatively known, is it's Donkey Kong as well. It's like the 40th anniversary of Donkey Kong, which is crackers.
Yeah, classic arcade Donkey Kong. Yeah. And it's been 7 years since he had a brand new game, being Tropical Freeze. I think we had a Mario vs. Donkey Kong game maybe about after that, but still, that's 6 years since then. So I am chomping at the bit for a new Donkey Kong game. Hopefully we get one this year.
I swear you bring this fact up every single time Donkey Kong is mentioned, John.
It's something I mention to people when I meet them. Like, I'll go to the supermarket and I'll buy some oranges, and I'll say to the cashier, "Did you know it's been 7 years since Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze?" And they'll say to me, "Please leave the store."
And then John says, "Wait, but actually, have you really given Donkey Kong on Game Boy a shot before? Yeah. I have my Game Boy right here."
I made a video about it. Like, just sit down and watch this for a second. I get the entire queue to come and line up and watch my video.
And then John has like a back pocket of business cards with links or QR codes to that video that he can hand out if people, you know, don't have time or they showed up late.
The Nintendo Life lore is getting deep, isn't it?
It's a very John thing to do. I still just can't believe that Nintendo hasn't acknowledged the Zelda anniversary yet, or I suppose Donkey Kong either. And maybe it's because of, you know, Mario's technically isn't over yet. But we haven't, I don't think Nintendo has spoken a word about the anniversaries necessarily.
No, I don't think they have.
I do think it's, when we have this broad list which we're about to show, it's hard to complain that Zelda hasn't had much when we have Skyward Sword HD on the horizon. And most of these anniversaries have diddly squat coming up.
They do. Do you know what one of those anniversaries is? It's the 20th anniversary of Pikmin.
Ooh.
Yeah, 2001. Good old Pikmin. I adore Pikmin, and I can understand why Nintendo wouldn't necessarily make a big brouhaha about it. But I'm just surprised as much as anything that Pikmin is 20 chuffing years old. I mean, that's bizarre to me because I remember... I mean, it doesn't feel like it was yesterday, but it feels like it was at least last week.
Yeah, the maths works out, sure. But when I think about 20 years ago, I tend to think of, like, 8-bit graphics. I think that's just the mindset I've been in since I've grown up. Like, retro games for me... When I was in the GameCube era, retro games would be NES games, there'd be Super Nintendo games, and going 20 years on from that, retro games to me are still NES games and Super Nintendo games.
Yes!
So just mirroring 20 with GameCube era is bizarre.
Imagine like having a conversation with, someone who is just unaware of, they've never played a Wii, just a little youngin, and you, this doesn't happen nowadays because we can't like go outside and have conversations with people we don't know anymore, but then they say something about like the 3DS or the Wii being old, and I mean we've acknowledged now that it is falling into that retro category, but whenever someone says that, it just hurts. Like I worked with a guy that didn't know what a VHS player was, and that's kind of kicking it back a little bit further, but I just was like he didn't know he didn't understand the concept, and I feel like he just had to be pulling my leg a little, but it's weird to see all of these things are just progressively getting older. Like I wish we could just stop time, like if we could get on that, I think that would be great. Then we wouldn't even have to be celebrating these anniversaries. We could just keep making new stuff.
Like, let's say the 3DS turned 10 this year. We did a video on it. Let's say you were 8 when that came out, and now you're 18 years old. There's a chance that you didn't know that the DS was the predecessor to the 3DS, or that you didn't know the DS even existed. Like, that person surely exists.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Speaking of the Wii, it is in fact the 15th anniversary of Wii Sports and the entire Wii series of games, and the Wii as well, but we're talking about game franchises. But there are a load of Wii games, and Wii Sports is one of them. It's 15 this year.
That should be illegal.
That feels so recent. I remember getting my Wii with Wii Sports and Excite Truck, which I guess that's part of the Excite Bike series, but that offset of Excite Bike is also 15 years old. And I can't fathom that. Like, SD cards were a thing then. Like, they had SD card functionality, and that feels recent. Oh, what is technology?
If only every system had an activity log, so we could go back and see how many hours all of us put into Wii Sports on the Wii. I mean, obviously we could count up all of the notes on our Wii, like all the messages.
Going back pretty far, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be forever.
Another arguably more obvious one, or certainly more relevant one, is Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing this year turns 20. The first one was Dubutsu no Mori, which I've probably butchered. That was in 2001, much like Pikmin. And I always think simultaneously of Animal Crossing being older because it was on the end. Well, it was on the 64DD, wasn't it? It wasn't on the N64.
Just regular cartridge.
Oh, it was just. Oh, I think it was planned for the 64DD, wasn't it? And then it never happened.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, but as a result, I always think of it as being older. Much like I feel the same with Doshin the Giant, which sadly doesn't have a 5 or a 0 at the end of its anniversary this year. Doshin the Giant turns 22 this year. So that's
But you had to put it on the list. You had to make an exception.
It's not on the list. It's just circumstantial mentioning of Doshin the Giant.
You've got to give him his fair share. With Animal Crossing, I think the popularity bloomed more with Wild World than it did the original release, specifically in the West. So I kind of view that as a newer franchise, even though it's been around for way longer than that.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. It's certainly not it's not a SNES game, it's not an N64 game, so it does feel very much in my mind recent, like Pikmin.
It's weird. Like I've been playing Animal Crossing since it came out on the GameCube, and I don't remember how we ended up, what made us decide to buy that game, but I was super into like the e-reader cards back in the day, and the whole 9 yards. And Fallon and I, my girlfriend, we were at Target the other day picking up some things, and we saw they have like Animal Crossing socks for kids, and there's like they have like t-shirts, pajamas, all this stuff, and it's like, man, it must be so good to be like a kid Animal Crossing fan these days, because all I could do back in the day was, the collectible cards were great, but you're treated so well now that Animal Crossing is one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, and it's crazy to see how far it's come. And how old you said it's 20 years now, if we date back to the N64 release, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wowee.
Do you know which other franchise, or at least fans of the franchise, are also very well treated these days? They also happen to have an anniversary this year. Metroid. I'm being facetious on purpose. Metroid turns 35 this year, which is crackers. But then again, I always think of Metroid as simultaneously an old franchise, but there are so few flippin' games in the series that it sort of feels new as well. Certainly underappreciated.
It's always special when it gets one, though. Like, the gap between Super Metroid and Prime and Zero Mission was also big. Like, that was, 94 until 2002, 2001? Something around that time frame.
Oh, yeah.
And equally with Other M until Samus Returns or Federation Force. That was a big gap, too. And we're in a little bit of a dry spell now as well. We know something's coming at the very least. But when it does come, it's going to deliver. Like, that feeling of there finally being a new Metroid is still going to resonate. And that's something this franchise always achieves. No matter how long it takes, something always comes in the end. So, hope's always there.
Yeah, it's really nice to see, too, that Nintendo is actually, put in the effort to make sure that Metroid Prime 4, whatever it ends up being, is a solid game as well, like considering that they canceled or restarted development and they didn't want it to turn into a... I enjoyed Other M, what I played of it, but I never finished it. And as we've learned before, I'm not the biggest Metroid fan on the block. But yeah, I'm hoping they do something this year. Acknowledge it, do something cool, and don't release Metroid Prime 4. Let it keep cooking, and I think they will. I think they will. So
yeah, Metroid has been around for 35 years, but it's never exactly been. It's sold, like there's been entries which have sold 1 million or 2, but it's never been one of their biggest franchises, which is why it's crazy that they're like putting all this money into Prime 4 by restarting development. It's more so legacy than it is, sellability. But still, it just kind of shows how much they care about this 35-year-old franchise.
I wonder if maybe they're putting a load of money into it and restarting development because they've seen the effect of revitalizing a franchise with things like Breath of the Wild, and they're looking at that and they're going, no, okay, Metroid has been bubbling away, simmering for years now. Let's bring it to a boil. Let's really get the temperature up. And if that's what they're doing, I'm very excited.
You know what would really get the temperature rising on all of the Metroid fans out there?
Open world MMO.
If they released it as a battle royale game.
Oh, my dreams.
Same joke, different flavors.
Yep.
Yeah. Moving on, another very, very big franchise. In fact, the largest media franchise in history, Pokemon. Pokemon turns 25 this year, which it makes me feel so incredibly old. It makes me realize that, it doesn't help that Pokemon came out later in the West, but it does not feel like 25 blooming years ago. But then again, I was a child, so it was 25 years ago. Damn this mortal body of mine.
Yeah, they're not lying to us. With Pokemon, every generation is someone's first, which is why we're always so excited for remakes. Like, Gen 4 is not one of my favorites. I enjoyed it, wasn't my favorite though, but there's still legions of fans who are begging for a remake to happen, and that's going to happen with Gen 5 and Gen 6 and Gen 7, and maybe years and years on, people are going to be begging for a Sword and Shield remake.
Wow.
It'll happen one day, and it just goes to show how prominent this franchise has always been. Like, it's never dipped. People have always been around, and they've always grown up with new games in the series, which is something very few franchises can keep doing 25 years in.
And we know that the Pokemon Company has more concerts lined up for the year, so that's exciting.
Do you know what's even more exciting?
Lots of things, but what, Alex? What
Chibi
are you?
Robo?
Yeah.
No, Chibi Robo doesn't have an anniversary this year, I'm afraid. Well, it does, but it's not a 5 or a 0, so it doesn't count.
I thought you were going to say Chibi Robo doesn't have an anniversary because Nintendo's forgotten it entirely.
Well, it could be the anniversary of its death, I suppose.
Oh, no. Is Chibi Robo Ziplash the death day? Is that what you consider?
Was that 5 years ago? I think we should fact check this a sec. Oh, nearly. It was late 2015, so it's nearly the 5th anniversary of his death.
Oh, nearly. Close but no cigar. But no, another major franchise, and some people, I think, may go down to the comments as soon as I say this, but Yoshi, the series of Yoshi games, is 30 years old this year. And some people will immediately be going, no, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island came out significantly later, and that is absolutely true. But Yoshi, the game Yoshi, as it was released in North America, it was released in the PAL regions as Mario and Yoshi. I don't know what it was released as in Japan, but that is considered the first Yoshi game. And that came out in 1991, if you can bloomin' believe it.
Yeah, it was developed by Game Freak as well, and the reason I remember that all the time is Junichi Masuda was the composer. So if you listen to the soundtrack, you'll hear lots of tracks that sound like Pokemon towns. Like Cerulean City sounds like it's in one of the tracks, and that predated Pokemon by a few years, so it's kind of cool to see how they're sort of growing into their formula with that one. And then we got Yoshi's Cookie on Super Nintendo the following year. But yeah, this was kind of the start of Yoshi as a franchise, and it started as 2 puzzle games, and then grew into a platforming series.
Can I just say, John, I love the fact that you're covering both pronunciations in a single breath. That was wonderful.
Did I go back and forth between Yoshi and Yoshi?
You went
really?
Yoshi, then you said Yoshi. It was wonderful.
God, this is what the internet does to me.
I know. I was saying Xenoblade Chronicles the other day, and now it can't be stopped now. I grew up with Yoshi on NES as well, and I remember like being super excited about it because it had like a cool green dinosaur on it, and then it was a puzzle game, and I played it with my grandpa a little bit here and there, but I didn't really understand it very well because I was too young. But now that you've mentioned that, did you say Masuda worked on that game?
Oh, it's Junichi Masuda.
Masuda. Okay. But that makes me want to go back and like actually check it out again and listen to those tracks.
It's fine. It's a perfectly serviceable game. I mean, it's nothing special, but yeah, I've got 2 copies of it. Maybe 3, I'm not sure. Hooray for me. I don't quite know how I accumulated that many. I know why I've got 2, because my brother and I wanted to play multiplayer, and we spent a long time like waiting and saving up and then finally getting another copy of the game, and I think we played the multiplayer like twice. It really wasn't worth it, but you know, it's a story. Here's a story about a kid. Kid Icarus turns 35 this year as well.
Wow.
And he's had 3 games in that time.
3 whole blooming games. People seem to think it's 2, but no, he had a game on the Game Boy, didn't he?
Yeah, Myths and
he
Monsters.
Did. Yep.
Yeah. It's been a long time since he's had a game. Like, Uprising was 7 years ago at this point, I think.
Wow.
Maybe 8. But it was such a good comeback, though. And I think Pitt got more popularity in Brawl than he ever did with his first 2 games.
Right.
But when that happened and people were begging for a new entry, they completely delivered on that and made something that was way beyond what the original's ever meant to be. So hopefully Kid Icarus is still alive somewhere. But it's not a game that we need every year. It's that special event when they finally bring it back, and you just celebrate it.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that if we didn't have Brawl, or Pit wasn't in Brawl, we might not have ever actually gotten Kid Icarus Uprising. I'm not sure what the development time. I guess that game did come out quite a bit after Brawl released, but I wonder if that was part of a big reason why we actually got that in the first place.
I'll flat out say if it weren't for Brawl, we wouldn't have Uprising at all. Because Sakurai was, he was the director on both games. Mm-hmm. He redesigned Pit. There's references to what Uprising would be in Brawl's cutscenes, like flying through the sky and Skyworld and Palatena's redesign. Like, Brawl just gave that franchise some life, which it barely had in the first place.
Wasn't there like a canceled Kid Icarus game at one point too for like the GameCube or something?
I think there was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
But you know who else is celebrating an anniversary this year and is also a kid? Donkey Kong Country 3 is celebrating its 25th anniversary here.
No, move on. We're not celebrating this.
Okay, okay. For the sake of the video, we're not actually focusing on individual games, but I'll let that in. I'm perfectly happy to discuss
guys.
that.
I wish I was editing this video. If I were editing this, Xeon, we'll just have this weird dramatic pause with no segue at all, and just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you know who's celebrating their anniversary? Just nothing. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that makes Kiddy Kong not a kid anymore. He's 25 years old at the very least.
Oh, can you imagine a 25-year-old Kiddy Kong as a dropout or something? That's weird.
I'm still pretty sure he is 25 in the game. I mean, he's the same size as Dixie Kong, and I think he's even the same size as Donkey Kong, which it brings up so many questions.
You say that, but apes develop more slowly than humans, so, you know. No, I said, no, what am I talking about? No, they develop quicker. I completely fuddled my muddle then.
So if Kiddy Kong ever comes back in a game, you're saying he might be like Kiddy Cranky Kong, almost?
Is he still wearing his onesie? That's the question.
Oh, God, no.
But maybe he has a new one. Imagine an element where, like, he changes his onesie. He's like, you know, the kids that go to raves these days, and they always got their, like, the dinosaur and dragon onesies. That's Kiddy Kong's new power-up.
Do you think he ever washes it, or does he just peel it off once a year or something, and then scrapes off the residue off his, you know, leaking torso?
I appreciate that you used the word peel. That just created a strange image in my brain of him, like, unzipping like it, and just I don't know, it was unsettling.
Well, I mean, in like medieval Britain, people did used to like line like undergarments with fat in order to keep warm in the winter. So that must have been a taste sensation come the spring.
Oh,
I think we've lost all our viewers.
Okay, so getting marginally back on topic. It's the 10th anniversary of Steel Diver. Can you imagine?
oh boy. Really? I completely forgot about that one.
People often say that Mario 3D Land and Mario Kart 7 saved the 3DS, but in actuality, Steel Diver was what gave it its own little flavor. If it weren't for Steel Diver, would there have been other games? Probably.
I think what John's trying to say is Steel Diver did it really did wonders for the 3DS's overall launch lineup. How many of you can say that you picked up Nintendogs and cats over Steel Diver? Come on, let's be real. There's tanks underwater. There's subs. They're not. Did you ever get to the secret underwater tank mission? You ever enter the cheat code where you can unlock the tank in the game? You never did that?
I just love the idea that I just want to go to a museum now and see like a museum in a foreign country which has an English translation, but it's a little bit off, and it calls submarines water tanks.
That's a way better name though.
It would actually be weirdly appropriate because tanks are only called tanks because it was a code name. It was Operation Water Tank, and that's why they're called tanks. It was a secret.
Well, there you go. Land submarines, they should be called.
This is one of those moments where my brain reached into its personal dictionary and it pulled out the wrong word, and I'm not even mad about it. It's just, it's fine.
Golden Sun is some years old. Let's talk about something better. How old is Golden Sun? I'm gonna get. I didn't actually check. There's 20 or something. I would have thought.
Yeah, 20.
I think it's 20. Yeah.
Wow.
That was my first Game Boy Advance game, and I have not a lot of memories of it, unfortunately, just because it's been so long since, and it's a very story-driven RPG. But gosh, it was so good, and graphically, it's so impressive for the system. I know Camelot, the developers, are making Mario Golf now and Mario Tennis, and they've always kind of been the sports Mario team. But I really hope that they get the chance to come back to this again, and differently than they did on DS. I played a little bit of that, and maybe my nostalgia bone just wasn't getting triggered in the way that I would have liked. But like picturing a full-on like remake of Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age in like a Octopath Traveler style like graphical upgrade. Woof! Just you can make it happen, and you can make it profitable, Nintendo. Just I want that so bad.
What's nuts too is Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age were released a year apart. Like they made two RPGs within the span of a year, while also making Mario Golf and Mario Tennis for both Game Boy Advance and GameCube at the same time. Their productivity was crazy during that era.
It's like our February.
Yeah, just like our February.
Yeah.
And yeah, then it took them another, I think, 8 years or so, maybe 7 years to do the DS sequel. And since then, nothing. Nothing at all.
Bizarre. Well, fingers crossed for something new in the future. But who turns 20 this year? It's Mr. Luigi's Mansion. This is a bit, sort of. I mean, is Luigi's Mansion a series, or should it be the Luigi games or something? I think Luigi's Mansion is a series. It's got 3 games in it. It's distinct, and it's not like any other game that Luigi is in. I really like Luigi's Mansion. Especially 3.
It's funny because for a long time Luigi's Mansion had quite a poor reputation. Like people, when it first came out, people were like, "This is the GameCube's killer app." Like it's not a platformer. And while it was a good graphical showcase, it was kind of panned for what it wasn't. But then as the years went on, it got appreciated for what it is. But it was always just this sort of obscure GameCube game for a while, and then I think 12 years later, it got a sequel. Then all of a sudden, this weird offshoot became a series. So it went a long time, kind of having this mismatch of opinions, and now it's one of Nintendo's most prominent series, with Luigi's Mansion 3 selling more than Link's Awakening. I think it sold 7 million copies, which is crazy for something that was like an obscure offshoot to begin with.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like my memory could just be wrong, but I feel like for a while there was an amount of people that were kind of clamoring for Luigi's Mansion to return. And I never grew up with the game either. A cousin of mine had it and he loved it to death. And but yeah, I never played it growing up, so I didn't have any memories. But when people speak up about a series, it seems like that can kind of, I mean, Nintendo probably will never admit to it, but I wonder if that has anything to do with, the fact, the way that Nintendo handles re-releases or just the way that they revisit things. Because, yeah, Dark Dawn, or Luigi's Mansion 2, I believe is what it was known in your neck of the woods, was it was so much later than the GameCube release. And it felt kind of like it came out of nowhere. And now Luigi's Mansion 3, yeah, was like one of the best-selling Switch games. It's insane. And it was... it was reviewed so well and praised, and people loved it. And it's cool to see that Nintendo can still take some of these like obscure one-off series, and turn them into something big. And because I agree with you, Alex. I think Luigi's Mansion is worth celebrating. It deserves a spot on the list.
It's where they remade it too on 3DS. I always forget about that. Prezzo, I think, did it actually. And it's like the character models are more modernized. I wouldn't say it looks better, but it's still cool to get that finally in 3D for the first time. Because when developing the first game, they were experimenting with stereoscopic 3D on the GameCube. So to realize that concept that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have any arguments with that. I don't think anyone would have any arguments with the next one on our list, which is this. It's still going. Super Mario RPGs started. 25 years ago? Yeah, 1996, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. How's that been going for 25 blooming years? And why are all these games, why are there so many anniversaries this year?
And Mario RPGs ended around 5 years ago, 10 years ago. No, I don't want to get into that. I fully believe that Origami King and Color Splash are still RPGs. They're just a different take on RPGs. But, Mario and Luigi's kind of gone now. Paper Mario's still kicking, but it's not quite gone back to its roots. But over the years, though, we've had great Mario RPGs come out of this series. The first game on Super Nintendo, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. That's 2 different games, not one title. Superstar Saga and Dream Team. There's been so many great games that have come out of this. And it's just kind of that extension of Nintendo taking Mario and putting him in genres that he shouldn't be in. But it somehow works. And they've been doing it for years and years and years.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because their first venture with that in Super Mario RPG was with Square Enix, or Square, I believe it was just Squaresoft at the time. I don't think they were working with Enix at that point.
Yeah.
And now, they... was it... what's the studio that did Mario and Luigi? Was that...
Alpha Dream.
Alpha Dream. Okay, I was gonna say Intelligent, but that wasn't. I knew that wasn't right.
They do Paper Mario.
Yeah, it's cool that they gave them free reign to work on the series, and then obviously Paper Mario. Oh yeah, you're right. Paper Mario was different, but now it seems like we might not get any Mario and Luigi games for a long time, and it's all just because I think they just released too many of them at once. Maybe if they would have slowed it down a little bit and celebrated the anniversaries more often, or or maybe once every 5 years instead of pumping out a Mario and Luigi game every year on 3DS. Maybe the series wouldn't be where it is now. But But at least we have all those games.
Yeah, it's kind of oversaturation, isn't it? Because an RPG is something you savor, and when you're doing it annually, it does become a bit much, and they're doing remakes as well on top of new releases.
Right.
And yeah, it got a bit much.
I mean, you say what you like, but Bowser's Minions, whew, that was an inclusion that everyone was clamoring for.
Yeah, I could barely breathe.
I never played it, so I can't tell. I feel like Alex is joking here, but I'm on the edge of not knowing.
When I was playing Superstar Saga for the first time, all that's going on in my mind is, what are Bowser's Minions doing? What are they doing at this moment? And this game, it let me know.
Yeah, it was an odd inclusion. Let's maybe leave it at that, because there is one final entry on our list, one final glimmering light that is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Can you guess what it is? You're wrong. It's Pushmo.
Oh, Pushmo.
Are we ending on Pushmo?
We're ending on Pushmo. Oh,
Okay. Great series, though.
it is a good series. It's simple, effective. It's got various different names depending on where you live and what color shoes you wear. I think sometimes, but yeah, it is what it is, and it's 10 years old.
That game deserves to come back. It's if Nintendo can be pumping part-time UFO on their social media as much as they are, they can take some of that effort and bring Pushmo pull blocks back and pump a little life into that. Come on, Nintendo, what are you doing?
I do feel like they maybe got the most out of the concept that they could have, because with the sequels, that we had pull blocks and then full blocks and then full blocks, and they never quite lived up to the original. Like pull blocks was always my favorite one, but then Pull Blocks World came along, which was like the HD Wii U version of the first game, and it just kind of did the same thing again with prettier graphics and a level sharer, and that was enough. Like I think they can do that again. There's no need to like try and make something new of pull blocks when you can just iterate upon what worked before.
Or just release, pull blocks forever or something, and have, kind of like a big compendium of maybe like all except for maybe some of the really rubbish puzzles, if there are any. I wouldn't necessarily say there were, but just, of all the games, just throw them all together. It's not like they're all vastly different that they can't be in the same game.
Yeah, and it feels kind of like... It feels like we're getting to the... I don't want to say the bottom of the barrel with like Wii U ports, to Switch, because Pull Blocks Pushmo World is not bottom of the barrel quality at all. It's a great little puzzler, but it is definitely like one that's probably low on a lot of people's lists. But yeah, it definitely deserves being brought back over to the Switch. And realizing that it's 10 years old, it feels just as strange as like us talking about the 3DS being that old again. Like, this is someone wake me up. This is not true. This is a dream, right?
Unfortunately, Xeon, it's very, very real. And what's even realer is that those are all the ones that we found. Those are all the significant ones we found that were specifically Nintendo franchises. But then again, it's not like we spent days researching this. So I just want to reel off all the anniversaries that are happening this year, and hopefully trying to remember which year they are. Or I could ask one of you two guys. See, I tell you what, let's make it a competition. I'll read out a name, and you guys have to then say which, how old it is, and the first person to say it gets credit. Okay?
Okay, I'm leaning forward.
Can I trade this in towards a new copy of Madden? I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, for that new copy of Madden that doesn't exist. Donkey Kong.
40.
Oh, John was first. Zelda.
35.
Oh, yeah, that was tied. Very, very fast. Pikmin.
Oh, man. 20.
20.
Oh, Xeon got the heads up on that one. Wii Sports.
15.
15.
Oh, Xeon's running away with it. Animal Crossing.
20.
Oh, that was a John. Metroid.
35.
I didn't hear a thing from Xeon then.
It was nothing audible.
Pokemon.
20.
35?
Sorry, 25. 25.
Oh, that was a close one. That was a close one. Yoshi.
35?
30. John was right.
Ooh.
Kid Icarus.
35.
Yes. Steel Diver.
10.
Xeon got that one just by a hair. Golden Sun.
20.
Nice.
Nice. I had to sort of think, is it 20? I'll just accept it.
I know, you didn't say anything, so I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
I nodded in approval.
You nodded. That's excellent. Thanks for that, John. Luigi's Mansion.
20.
Nice. Super Mario RPGs.
25?
Oh, yes. And the last one, the top one. You already know what it is because it's the one we remembered. So it's who can reply
10.
the fastest. John, that doesn't count.
I was going to say a different number, but I still said 10.
No, stop. Pushmo.
10.
10.
Oh, John gets it. Oh, it must be the closeness because he's in the United Kingdom. But
I'm next to him
well
right
done.
now.
A round of applause for everyone involved.
Yay. Well done, Paul Blocks.
Brilliant. What is this video even anymore? Those are all. Let's count them. How many have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to put a number up on the screen. That'll probably be better. What a big number. Look at that. Crazy.
Wow.
Absolutely crazy.
I can't believe that many games have anniversary. They're so old. Wow.
Does every game age?
But there you have it. That is a lot of anniversaries, to say the least. Are there any significant Nintendo ones that we missed? Let us know what they are in the comments down below. But for now...
Actually, Alex, I need to stop you for 1 second. You forgot my favorite... I don't have anything. Go ahead.
Splendid. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you celebrate the anniversary of that subscribe button. Hang on. I think Nintendo Life started in 2006, the channel. I'm going to check.
Oh, no.
I'm going to check. It started in 2006! 14th of May 2006 is when this channel was started, and very little was done on it until 2015, but it existed. So there you go. It's our anniversary as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you hit that subscribe button 2006 times in honor of our anniversary, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye bye.
I'm actually pretty sure the game I was thinking of was Bubsy. I think that has an anniversary this year.
My favorite Nintendo game.
Time is but an illusion. Sometimes we age, but in our minds, the world is everlasting.